The Bahrain Grand Prix is now in the history books, and a thrilling battle between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen for victory kicked off the 2021 F1 season in the most exciting manner. And despite Hamilton's victory, in which he was able to hold off the rampaging Verstappen, Mercedes no longer has the fastest car. Indeed, Red Bull seems to begin 2021 with the advantage. The new rules for 2021 with the reduced floor and diffuser size seem to have hurt Mercedes more than others. What we still don't know for sure is where Mercedes spent its tokens for 2021, and perhaps the components it had changed are completely internal. Technical chief James Allison said that Mercedes had spent its tokens, but won't reveal where. But one of the main sideshows of the opening round at Bahrain was the debate over Rake. With the new floor rules came the question of whether it would suit the high rake or low rake cars. The impact of the technical changes have been discussed at great length, but before running began, few were sure of the impact they would have on cars of differing rake. And for those of you who aren't 100% sure of what rake actually is, it's the inclination of the front compared to the back. By adding more rake, you tilt the front of the car downwards towards the ground and raise the rear up to increase the effective diffuser volume, theoretically gaining more downforce at the expense of increased sensitivity. With fewer cuts, slots and furniture allowed with 2021's floors, it was unknown who would win the great Formula 1 rake-off. The theory again was that Red Bull would achieve much more peak downforce, but Mercedes had a much more stable supply. But courtesy of Aston Martin's team principal Otmar Szafnauer, we have our answer. Szafnauer estimated that in comparison to the high rake cars, Mercedes and Aston Martin lost about a second. But why the sudden shift? Without the benefit of a wind tunnel or a commercial CFD package, it's hard to say definitively, but we can make our estimates. The lower rake cars appeared to have needed the longer diffuser strakes and the slots in the floor more, because there's less space under the floor to make use of. The slots that perforated the edge of the floor were employed to create a seal, allowing everything between to stay fluid in the way that the aerodynamicists had hoped for. By using the slots to minimise turbulence within the diffuser, it reduces the amount of blockage created by the cycling pockets of air and develops a nice clean amount of expansion out the back of the car. This sucks air through the floor, generating downforce, but without those perforations, the likes of Mercedes and Aston Martin have a lot less to work with, hence developing the loss of performance over the Bahrain weekend. But it seems that dialing in a high rake car with the new floor regulations is, off the bat, easier to do. It seems that perhaps the slots and myriad devices on the floor edge were altogether less effective for those teams, to a certain degree. Now they're gone, those high rake teams can work within the template, but can allow that greater diffuser expansion to do much more of the heavy lifting in terms of downforce. Overall, the balance appears to have shifted. Equally, what it also does is force Mercedes and Red Bull into developing their cars, rather than hoping to be able to shift focus into 2022 early on. What Mercedes can't do is make the switch from low rake to high rake. Suspension geometries are homologated, and although jacking up the rear of the car might be tempting, it could prove even worse for a car not designed around that philosophy. In other words, the W12 hasn't been designed for that, nor has the Aston Martin AMR21, so it doesn't even bear thinking about. Here's a look at Mercedes' new floor animated in glorious 3D. At the front you can see the ripple effect along the edge, which can be used to expand airflow when the car is in yaw. The edge then receives a square cutout as it begins to taper in, giving the team a tip vortex to use to try and seal the rest of the floor. Then at the rear corner there's the fins hoping to direct airflow outwards. Mercedes also made a few changes to the barge boards, particularly moving the leading edge further forward and making additional detail changes to the concept. Last year the barge boards underwent a mid-season change, where the front part of the barge board was moved back from the Belgian Grand Prix and beyond, so perhaps the team has seen fit to reverse that shift in position owing to the demands of the new floor regulations. The horizontal boomerang features a slightly upturned tip, allowing for a different placement of any vortex generated, and behind that the turning vane attached directly to the side pod now extends all the way down to the floor. The front brake ducts have been flipped, turned upside down at least to some degree, improving the aero footprint on the rest of the car. It also features the new engine cover with a distinct bulge in the centre, owing to the new specification of power unit. But it would be remiss to suggest that Red Bull's position at the front is solely because of the high rake low rake shift in fortunes. The team put all of its resources into reworking the rear of the car, introducing an innovative multi-link rear suspension to give the aero a further boost and ensure the rear was less temperamental than last year's RB16. Both Verstappen and Sergio Perez have enjoyed a more predictable car to drive. Honda has poured an awful lot of resources into getting the powertrain far closer to the Mercedes unit, and Lewis Hamilton estimates that Honda has pulled ahead of the Anglo-German team's power unit in terms of performance. Despite all that, Mercedes still won in Bahrain, so they've still got it. But Red Bull could have the stronger package in 2021, and it needs to exploit that.